There are things I don't explain anymore. And when I say that, I don't mean it in a dramatic way. I don't mean it as a statement. I don't even mean it as a decision. It's just something I noticed. Somewhere along the way, I stopped. I stopped trying to walk people through every thought I had, every feeling, every reason. Not because those things didn't matter. They mattered. They mattered more than I wanted to admit. But explaining them started to feel heavier than keeping them to myself. I remember a time when I believed that if I could just find the right words, the right tone, the right order, the right timing, people would finally understand. I really believed that misunderstanding was a communication problem. Like maybe I just hadn't explained myself clearly enough yet. So I tried again, and again, and again. I explained how I felt, why I felt that way, where it came from, what I meant, what I didn't mean. Sometimes I explained things that didn't even need explaining, and I didn't notice the cost at first, because it didn't show up as something obvious. It showed up as exhaustion, not physical exhaustion, a quieter kind, the kind that comes from having to translate yourself over and over again for people who aren't really listening. Because slowly, I started to see something. Some people don't want to understand. They want reassurance. They want certainty. They want you to stay the same version of yourself they already understand. And when your explanation doesn't give them that, they push back. They ask more questions. They ask for more clarity. They ask you to explain it one more time. And suddenly, your feelings turn into something that needs approval, something that needs permission, something that needs to make sense to someone else before it's allowed to exist. That's when it started to feel wrong, because being heard isn't about how well you speak. It's about whether someone is willing to stay open when the answer isn't comfortable. And not everyone is. I didn't stop explaining all at once. It happened quietly. I stopped explaining my boundaries, not because they weren't important, but because every explanation felt like an invitation to negotiate them. I stopped explaining why I needed space, why certain conversations felt heavy, why I didn't want to keep going in the same cycle again. I stopped explaining why some things hurt me, because every time I did, it felt like I had to prove that my pain was valid enough to count. And that's exhausting. Not everyone deserves access to your inner reasoning. Not everyone needs to know how you arrived at your decisions. Not everyone is entitled to the full map of your inner world. Sometimes silence isn't avoidance. It's protection. I learned that over-explaining often means you don't feel safe enough to just exist, safe enough to say no without adding context, safe enough to change without announcing it, safe enough to choose yourself without preparing a defense. And feeling safe shouldn't require a presentation. There's a quiet confidence that comes with not proving yourself, not justifying your distance, not explaining your growth, not clarifying why you're different now. Because change doesn't always come with an explanation. Sometimes it comes after too many conversations where you weren't really heard. Not everyone needs your story. Some people only wanted access to it. And when you take that access away, it can feel uncomfortable for them, but relieving for you if you've stopped explaining yourself lately. Maybe you're not shutting down. Maybe you're not becoming cold. Maybe you're not avoiding connection. Maybe you're just learning where your energy belongs. And maybe that's not something you need to explain at all.